Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the World Percussion Group Academy. I'm so excited to be here today with Ksenija. Hello. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Ksenija is a wonderful soloist and a teacher, currently teaching in North Carolina. I'm from Serbia originally. I met you in Corpus Christi, Texas, a while back. So you were in the Texas gang for a while, but now are teaching North Carolina. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your current projects or anything you'd like to share?
For sure. Hi, Megan. It's good to see you again, and it's good to be back with WPG in one way or another. As you mentioned, I come from Serbia, and I had a pretty interesting and sort of exciting experience educationally. That's how I hopped around and went to the US for the first time and where I got my degrees. And then I went to Hong Kong for my first job, actually, before I went to Texas. And then I moved to Corpus Christi, worked at Texas A&M in Corpus Christi. And this past year, I started my new job at University of North Carolina School of the Arts, which I absolutely adore. So that's been fantastic. One of the things that I love doing besides solo music, besides playing solo and teaching, is chamber music. That is my jam, and that's how I ended up with WPG because I'm always on the lookout for amazing experiences where I get to meet incredible people who have similar goals and who like to push themselves to go further and don't fear exploring new countries and new cultures. I was part of WPG as a co-principal in 2019. So it's been 4 years, and we were in the UK, obviously, and then Spain, Portugal. So it was a good experience, and I'm still friends with some of those people to this day. And I mean, like close friends. I'm friends with everybody, but it's been a great experience, and I'm always so happy to be back now to meet the new folks. And I'm a huge fan of everybody. I've heard about most of the folks that come in already because I see them, winning competitions and everything. So I'm just super excited to work with some of them today.
Awesome, thank you. Um, that is so exciting. Um, and I have been doing this little bit before we start the playing for every session. Sorry, I forgot how to talk there for a second. So I would love to play a little bit of one of your performances so we all can see one of the projects you've done recently. This is one of my favorite duo arrangements I think I've ever heard. So I'm very excited to share this one. We'll play a little bit. We'll see how long of this I play. I usually only play a minute, but I don't know. We'll see. And this is a duo arrangement of Rite of Spring. So here we go.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Such a nice arrangement. Thank you so much for letting us share that one. Um,
It's my pleasure. I love it. I love that music too. So I'm glad we could share. Yeah.
um, now I will go ahead and pull up the next video. Ion, are you ready to go? Nice.
Now we just have to see.
Hello.
Oh, it works. Okay,
It
fantastic.
does work.
Hello. Hi.
um,
Greetings, greetings.
hello, how's it going? Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be playing?
Of course. So I am Jon. I come from Slovenia. I'm 23. Currently, just finished Master One at in Copenhagen. I mostly study with Anders Kan Elten and Johan Bridger, also Søren Monrad, who has been working here in the opera and the Royal Danish Theatre for very, very long, and he's currently head of percussion here. So that's the thing, yeah. And mostly, I guess I could say I focus on marimba and try to develop that. But I try to, stay proficient at everything. Of course, it's good to be proficient at everything. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Very nice. Here, what piece will you be playing exactly?
It's going to be 3 movements from the keyboard partita by Bach, the first one, and B flat major. So prelude, minuet, and the jig. So we can just go one by one, I guess. No? It works. Okay, great.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well
Thank you,
done.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for putting us side to side. Awesome, Megan. Ian, it's so nice to meet you.
Thank you. Likewise. Finally.
Yes. And you are a wonderful player, and I can see a big influence from the tree that your teacher comes from also. So I can see
Yeah.
Anders in you. I just think, yeah, you do a magnificent job, and I assume that you were influenced in some way by his. What did he play? The sixth partita, right? The E minor.
Yes.
Right? So you want to tell me a story about why you picked this to play and
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the story goes like this. I came here on Erasmus exchange in the 21-22 season, and like compared to now, I was like this kind of a tiny player, if I could even call myself that. And then Anders had this Bach clinic where he played the entire sixth partita, and I was just like, what? First of all, I didn't know this is possible, and then I was thinking like, okay, I either like sell all of my mallets and just go do something else, or start practicing. So I decided to do the latter. And up until that point, I was a Stevens player mostly, and then Anders started showing me a few of the like basic concepts of this hybrid Muller and so on. Also, that comes from Theo, right? So yeah, I picked it up like, let's say, November, December 21. But I just decided to throw myself into it straight away, just because throughout the years, from my experience, the way I progressed the most was through like setting a very high goal or like challenge, and then slowly building up towards that point. So first I picked up the saraband, which is obviously like technically the easiest, if we could say, right? Not necessarily musically. And then I just went movement by movement, and I decided to pick this one up because no one has actually done it before, or at least I didn't see anyone doing it. So I felt like, okay, why not give it a shot? And I found out that the entire thing actually works, just like the sixth partita. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's so, what a huge rebirth you've had in a way, which is not to say that your previous way of playing or anything was not good enough, but I think it just takes a very special kind of love for the art and hunger and a lack of ego to be like, oh my God, I like that. I want to learn that, even if it means that I kind of have to like get rid of, empty my glass fully so I can accept this new knowledge. I think that's awesome. And I'm so glad that you found him, because I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's a lovely player and everything in between. So I think
we just played a concert like 2 hours ago, actually. So like his new trio with Theo and Arjan, they are here in Copenhagen. They did some master classes yesterday and today. And then we played a movement by this of a new piece by this Greek / Canadian composer, Christos Hatsis. They put out a promo video of the trio, and we're working on the duo with Anders a bit as well. So I was in a bit of a rush to get back, but yeah.
Oh, you made it. Very exciting day. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think again, you do a wonderful job, and when I listened to this before, I was trying to figure out what is one to talk to someone like you, where you obviously play the whole partita, so you're invested. You obviously love Bach. You obviously you have keyboard skills that go beyond the marimba. Like, I can tell you play piano. And I think this is just like, it can feel like a ceiling, but it can also be the beginning of something really amazing. And so, for me, what would be the question for you is, yes, no one's ever done this on marimba, which already makes it very interesting. But when you get to decide how you're going to play something like this, so not right now, you've picked 3 movements to present today because we don't have time for the whole partita.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I'm just wondering, like, why did you pick the ones that you did, and how did you choose that you're going to play this partita in this exact way? Just because I'm sure you have too, but I've done a lot of listening of piano players doing this, and everybody plays it very differently, obviously. And so, how did you pick what works for you, and how is that, fresh and interesting? Yeah.
I think so. First of all, I started listening to harpsichord players, just because that's like historically. Even though you could say this is a clavichord thing, right? But still, like, it's the closest that you can get to what they had it back in the time. I didn't actually find any clavichord performances of this, so they probably exist. But yeah. But then I thought about it a bit. Okay, Scott Ross, stuff like this. Of course, there you can get the inspiration of articulation, so like da 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 or something, right? Because that's one of the few tools they have to make phrases and music, if you can call it that. But then I switched over to piano because marimba has dynamics. Wow, of course you can use it, right? Why not use it if you can? And then the thing that stuck with me the most was I think definitely Andras Schiff, and just his approach to the entire thing. And he is my kind of like, if we are percussion here, he is my non-percussion idol. Also from the way he carries himself and his like sense of humor and everything. And basically, another thing I've discovered is playing, let's say you have a recital, you just play a few movements, you play it differently compared to playing the entire partita, because it's kind of a different story. For example, if I would only play the saraband in a performance, I would make it more dramatic. So I would go louder instead of staying serene and down to a very like intimate level, right? I would go into the hurt of it, right? For example. So these are like a few variables that definitely decide how you're going to play. In this particular performance, I was recording this for there was like 2 online competitions in October, and basically my idea was, I just have to get through the whole thing, because I also played something else after it. I think it was like a toccata by Ignatovic. So I tried to, stay calm, be like calculated in a way. Maybe this one was slightly too fast to get all the musical ideas out, but still, I think it worked fine. So yeah, I decided to pick the shorter movements just because we have a time constraint, so that we can talk about those.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. The fact that you think about it in terms of programming also, like how you're going to play really depends on it's like a meal, right? You're like trying to pace the audience through it, and whether you're telling the full story or it's just an excerpt, and also whether it's sandwiched in between intense music or you already have something intense, you're going to choose a lively movement or whatever. I mean, that all makes a difference. And yes, I agree. I think Schiff is just incredible, in his masterclass on the partitas. Like,
exactly.
He's
exactly
so funny. Yeah, it's really great. So, I mean, my only thought in this. So when we can't take openings of suites, I think perhaps the most freedom is allowed in preludiums, toccatas, fantasies, and all of those that kick things off, right? Because it's about really warming up your fingers and preluding on the piano or something. And but there's also then that contrast in terms of Baroque music, which is like there was this invention of the pendulum clock, right? And they're obsessed with the mechanics of it and everything ticking and everything sort of falling into place, right? And so one is supposed to decide whether Baroque music is indeed romantic, or if it's cerebral, or if it's somewhere in between.
The eternal debate, yeah.
The eternal debate, exactly. But as Schiff said in his masterclass, he's like, guess what? Nobody knows.
Exactly.
Bach wrote it without any dynamics, without any tempo marking. So it's really up to us. And, thinking about your level of proficiency on the instrument and how much you obviously love this already, which is something that I don't think anyone can teach anyone. And I don't have to tell you to like start loving this so that this could sound alive. But I wonder if for someone like you, it would be really interesting to take the route of Glenn Gould. And I'm not saying like Glenn Gould and the way he plays this one, because he actually plays this pretty conservatively for his own.
Conventional, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, with like all of this, everything that you have, that you're equipped with, knowledge, information, love for it, keyboard skills, all of it, that maybe you could take it to just like do something nuts with it.
Just be eccentric.
Be eccentric, exactly, because I don't know. I mean, I am now going way beyond, but I'm thinking for someone like you, you're in your graduate degree. You are, I'm assuming, looking for ways to like kick off that career and make money and make sure that the marimba pays your rent, like all of that. Good,
I'll
right?
try to at least, yeah. That's the big question, actually. Not even talking about the music, but yeah.
But that's really important, and I think again at a level that you're playing at, to select repertoire that will help you sell a program and have concerts is really useful. And I don't know, could your jazz skills come into play? Could you do something, like that? Could you Brad Meldau this stuff? Like, I don't know, but I feel like it's so...
How do you know me so well? We know each other for 10 minutes. I played jazz piano for a long time, and Brad Meldau is one of my favorites. What is this?
We come from a similar place, so I can feel you. I really, really think that you can, after you've done all of this, and this is really good groundwork, really good homework, like you know it for what it is, you can start transforming it into what Ion wants to do. You don't have to separate your influences, like keep your jazz skills on the other side. That's my opinion. And I think that could make for maybe a more interesting program to sell, maybe an easier thing to sell. Maybe you don't have to be in a concert hall. Maybe you could be in a club. Like, you could get people who appreciate Bach and jazz to come together.
Yeah.
It takes more work, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I improvise way more easily on a piano than I do on a keyboard, like with mallets. I'm always with mallets. I need way more computing.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
I know this.
yeah, so maybe for you it comes more easily, but maybe you can just start flirting with the idea a little bit, just to have another version of it. Again, because I mean, I don't. You already know everything. I don't have to tell you like, oh, make sure your eighth notes need to be like this. Like, we don't have to have those conversations ever. But like, how can you make this interesting and give a gift to to humanity that it hasn't had before, and also make money, and make a
Yeah.
living. I think that would be really cool. So that's my one idea for this.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because, for example, I was at the Theo summer camp 2 years ago, and we were taking breaks, and he went, I don't know, to get some coffee or something, and he heard I was just like, screwing around on the instrument, and he said like, oh, okay, why don't you start like writing or improvising a bit more seriously, and yeah, I'm always, this is always in the back of my mind, but then we're like, okay, there's this project, this is at school, this is that, this concert, you have to practice those excerpts, blah blah blah, and then you're like, okay, there's so many things, you have to kind of defragment it and decide, okay, this first, then maybe when I have time, you put attention to that. But yeah, it's really fascinating how you've come to this so quickly.
Let me tell you, one of the things that really differentiates players, especially I think is really important when you're at your age. So again, you're figuring this out. There isn't really a shortage of awesome players, right?
Oh no, what happened? Something happened. Oh no.
Hello again, everyone.
Okay.
I think that Ksenija is having some Wi-Fi trouble. She'll probably be back up in 1 minute. Let's see.
Oh, that's a shame.
I'll message her. She will come back.
Do you know how much time we have in general, like today? Like 2 hours
We
or
have,
something like this?
yeah, 2 hours today. We have a lot of time because there's only three
Okay.
performers, so we can.
Okay.
We have time for this. It's okay.
Okay, at least we got that.
Okay. I'm gonna go in and take her off stage for 1 second. Would you like to play your next movement while we wait and try to get everything back up and running?
I guess we could, yeah. I mean, why not? But what will Ksenija have to listen to it later again, or?
We can just wait. We can go ahead and talk about Bach while she's gone.
Sure.
I do really like your interpretation of the violin partita. I have not yet actually played a violin one. I'm like chunking through all the cello ones at the moment before I get to
Violin partita? You mean this one, what we're doing now?
Yes. No, what did you submit?
This is a keyboard.
Keyboard partita.
Yeah.
Still, that is my bad. I'm a little bit sleep deprived at the moment. I'm actually at a music festival right now. And
it's that. What's it called? It's in Germany or is it US?
Netherlands. Yeah.
Netherlands. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I saw you're going there. Very nice.
How'd your concert go today?
Oh, it was very cool. I didn't actually know that
That's so cool.
the trio that they played with today was actually the first time that they played it as a whole, or the second time, I guess, because the video they released, they just did like excerpts for the promo video, so we actually got to listen to the world premiere, if you could call it. So it was
that's so cool.
pretty crazy. Yeah, like it's pretty amazing what they can do. It's like almost like a sextet, because you have all this stuff going on, and then there's 3 players, and it's like, whoa. And another idea that they have is, the composer had, is to make the as a talk or even like a stereo image. When there's like panning going on in some songs, the marimbas can be set like very far apart. So it's like you have a central one, and then the ones super far away. They were like next to each other, but still like pretty wide. And then when they have like, it's like a conversation between three different directions, and it creates this really cool sound picture. And it's pretty nice. Yeah, I guess the only problem of this music or repertoire for now is that not actually many people can do it or play it for now. So it's kind of like their own thing, and it probably might be for a little bit longer.
For a little bit.
Until we start picking up on that crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it was super nice, and the workshop as well. Well, is Ksenia back? Hey, there we go.
She's back. Okay. Well, thank you for.
And now the microphone.
No.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no, you're good. You're
Tell
good.
me it works. Okay. Jeez, I'm so sorry. It dropped.
No
It
problem.
worked with this. So
Okay, no worries.
good.
Well, on that note,
where were
should
we?
we go ahead and get into the next two movements?
Yes.
And then we can continue discussing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll hold my thought for what I had. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. I know I'm not supposed to clap between movements, but I will.
Thank you.
Awesome. Really, really lovely. I was gonna say in this one, I actually did have just some thoughts, and really mostly inspired by Schiff's playing. I think the first minuet is a little bit has more dimensionality, and I think he does some really interesting things, like emphasizes offbeats, for example, when they're interesting, or like breaks up the left hand because it doesn't start on one, but it's like ba-dee-dum, and I think that is something where you can see that even he on his Mount Olympus of playing this, and again, let's call it, he creates the convention basically. Even he like sees a little bit of how rebellious Bach is, and you can play around with that as well. to go back to what I was going to say before technology failed, is one of the things that is really important, I think, at the level that you're at, is that there is this idea a lot of times when we study, we major in this thing called percussion, or we want to play the marimba mostly. And so we try to be the best marimbist we can. And usually, if we are lucky enough to have someone who influences us a lot, we like absorb a lot from them. But we cannot become them. We cannot walk their path the full whole way, right? We can pick up a lot from their breadcrumbs and everything that they give us, but we cannot continue on that same way. And so I think right now, what really works well for a lot of people is to look at what their so-called secondary talents are. So your primary strength is you're a musician that expresses himself through the marimba the most, for example. Let's say that's your native language in music. But you have this secondary talent, and for some people it's like they're a great cellist, but maybe they wouldn't win, I don't know, a big competition. They're also a vocalist, and maybe they're not, I don't know, Bobby McFerrin, but when they combine the two, it is like something very new and very cool. And for you, this skill that you have and this love that you have for diverse types of music is not something that you should only, I think, enjoy passively. I think you should incorporate that into your music and then start presenting it to us, because the way your mind perceives Bach and how your mind can like cross-pollinate Bach with jazz is something that a lot of people can do. So, just a thought. It's really, really, again, we could be like very good at this and very good at that, maybe not good enough to win the Queen Elizabeth competition, but we're okay. But when we combine the two, it becomes a superpower that not a lot of people have the combo, So like really, really capitalize on the combo, I'd say.
Yeah, that's very good, for sure.
In this movement, also what I was wondering in your approach, because you play everything, I think, a little more lively in tempo, but you still refer to the harpsichord or the clavichord, right? Do you care about the dance potential of it? Do you like care to set tempi so that they could do
absolutely.
it? They have to do the eights and the Z's, and with those big crinolines, it's like very hard to move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If I were to have that image in my mind, I probably would have taken it a bit slower. Yeah. Also, if you take it slower, then the hidden voicings inside the one line that actually become two can be emphasized a bit more, or you can at least point them out more. From that perspective, I think probably the slightly slower tempo would work better. Yeah. Also, it's easier to play, right? And they're not necessarily less effective. Yeah, I probably it was just like, oh yeah, the movement before this saraband, like very slow and very slow. I play it very slow and very expressive compared to. I played by far the most romantically than the other movements. So maybe I was just like, okay, back on track. Maybe that was sort of the thing in this specific performance.
Yeah.
And then where this it does definitely originate from harpsichord. When they have when the Menuet 2 starts, they turn off the register and they start playing on the upper keyboard, and it's a thinner sound. And then I thought, okay, but if I play next to the ropes, the entire Menuet 2 is just way too risky, and you're just gonna hit the notes or just miss the note altogether. So I tried for a different approach to go in very decisively into Menuet 2. Then kind of this again, I'm telling you again, dum dum tira tira da then second time very shy, the Menuet 1 B part very shy, then decisive again because it connects back to Menuet 1, back to the beginning kind of, so that was the idea behind that. But yeah, let's say that's
no, I mean everything is very well thought out. It's just every time I do these things, I always go through okay, what would it be like if there were dancers? And it's always slower when there are dancers. Whatever you play,
absolutely.
For the Rite of Spring, it's like we're gonna break those people's legs with what we want to do. So we gotta chill out. But again, it's one of those things. Is like, are you trying to really connect with the past and do? I mean, on the marimba we can't, but like a historically accurate performance, or do you want to really push it to the future? And I think maybe what's what's least interesting option is to be stuck in the middle. Like, oh, I've done, I'm kind of like right now, which doesn't say much. So again, I think either like deep dive into a time machine and go back, which is I think what you've done a lot of, and I think you can also push it into the future. Again, make it mingle with some music that Bach didn't know would exist. So awesome.
Oh, that's very good.
Shall we listen to? I mean, you nailed this. This jig is amazing. So let's just and enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah. Megan will play it for us. Thank you.
Yay!
That's just awesome. It's like it's written for the marimba, except on scale. it's
Yeah, I found it actually works really well. Well, you have to get used to the. What I got at the start was quite a few stick clicks because I was maybe like a bit too high with the triplet hand, the offbeat hand, and then I just drop, and then it kind of just goes by itself.
flows.
And then it actually works pretty well.
It's really, really awesome. And the hall that you play in, I mean, it's I think is really beautiful. I'm sure that in person it's awesome. I think you can make also, I assume, an intimate recording of this if you close mic'd things a little bit more, because I think you have so much like the color of the instrument that you get when you play with your type of technique is so interesting because you approach the instrument very differently. And I think, again, for that purpose, having a good recording with close miking and obviously then a room mic, and then you make sure that you level them properly so you get the best of both worlds. I think that'd be awesome. So you should, if you don't have it already, just record an awesome thing of this, even in this, sort of like orthodox way. It's like very, very simple and close to that. I think you should do it, but then definitely, please let the rest of your personality, let the rest of your personality into all of this music. Just don't separate what you do when you're off and off duty and on duty. You can start to merge these things. This is where we really get to see who you are as a performer, like who you are as a person. That's the whole point. It's like there aren't many people, but I'm sure there are like 2 or 3 in the world who can also, if they practice, do this as well, right? But that's not the point. The point is that we want to hear Eon play this in a way that's really close to your heart. And you're
Mhm.
you're doing it already, but I feel like you have maybe segmented some things, and put them for like, this is after
Yeah.
hours playing, and this is what I do when I'm at the academy. And I think they should come together. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I was with this because it's like the first big thing that I did with, well, traditional grip in general, actually, because I like this. I went straight into this, well, apart from the lute suite, right? The E minor thing, the whole thing. But yeah, maybe I was just like, okay, let's try not to. How do you call this? Let's try not to break it down too much at the very beginning. I was like, okay, let me learn it the right way first, and then maybe we can play around, in the future when I get even more proficient at the techniques, and then I can maybe take even more freedom.
Yeah.
But then then it comes to, again, when of course I want to do my own thing and what I feel like. Absolutely, I think I've always been kind of this way, kind of like a little bit of a rebel, if you can call it. But then you get to, okay, let's say you want to make a living of doing this stuff, right? Well, then you also have to combine this with what the people want, and also what the professionals want, right? Because it's kind of like not a taboo, like a stigmatized thing in a way, or a polarizing thing. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Okay, this is not percussion, or someone might say, or like this is not the percussionist's way to do it. But to be honest, I just just do my own thing, and because I love it, and I really care, so
Exactly.
we'll see how we can merge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, don't worry about those. I think that kind of stuff where you're focusing on one thing at a time, and as you said, you want to be a well-rounded player. That's all really good, and that's not really good as a foundation. But you cannot walk too far away from who you are and what you like to listen to, what you enjoy, what kind of music inspires you, because we can so easily become zombies on stage and just hired guns where we play everything that everyone else
Yeah.
tells us. And we're
Mm.
going to do that in ensembles. Let me tell you. So you can, like, if you play in an orchestra, you will probably never get to choose what that orchestra plays and what you play in it. You might get to choose that if you win the top spot, right? And you assign the parts.
Yeah.
But when you do solo, when you do chamber music, that's why I did the Rite of Spring. Is like, I want to play what I want to play, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And sure, there's like, wow, this is terrible. I think someone recently left me a comment. It was like the first mean comment that I got on YouTube. It was like, oh, Stravinsky's rolling in his grave. And it's just like,
Okay. Well, good. You woke him up, right? Well, that's good. Or something. I don't know.
I love it and I can't hide it. And I'm going to combine the two things that I love, even though I had to create a big bridge for them to meet because it didn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you find these things, really go for them. And I think you'll find that you're actually, what you're going to do is you're going to mix people up. Again, some people are going to come because they love Bach. Some people are going to come because they love the marimba. Some people are going to come because they love Brad Meldau, or they love you playing piano and improvising. And you're going to find a way to grow your audience times 3, as opposed to just playing for a Bach audience, just playing for this, and separating them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can also go listen to, maybe you have already, I think Vasilina Serafimova and Thomas Enko have this little jazzed up version of their wonderful duo,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah. I've heard that.
version
Yeah.
of some Bach, and it's stellar. It like makes you listen to it differently.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
for
And they
sure.
do the same with like Bulgarian folk music. So it's something of where Vasi comes from. But
Yeah.
don't run away from that stuff. Draw from Slovenia, draw from your jazz, draw from all these things. It's like, it makes you really special. It makes you very unique. So just like
Mm.
go deeper, I think.
Mm. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. That's very good. I've started kind of like, for example, there's this competition coming up in Finland in September.
Mhm.
Majaoja, it's called, in Tampere.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, the semi-final, if you can call it, or like the first live round, has a 15-minute limit, and you have to play a snare piece and a vibraphone piece. And it's like, oh, okay, but like, okay, Omar is long, Capitalism is long, and there's not that much. Or Dove Sonnet is freaking long. There's not that much repertoire that you can play that's like kind of like to be okay. It's a competition piece. So I decided to take a risk, and I wrote like a, well, it's still not finished, but it's almost finished, arrangement of Blackbird,
I love
inspired by Brad Meldau, for a
it.
vibraphone.
I
So
love
that's gonna be it. I'm probably gonna like premiere it there. But this is kind of like, I start to put my own voice and try to mix thingies, because at first it was an improvisation, but then you just transcribe your own playing and it's an arrangement, right? and then
Right.
you have it as a physical thing that you have from coming from you, and that's
Yeah.
really cool.
I love
So,
that.
yeah.
I think that's awesome. And that's so great. And you can now notice our repertoire. I mean, in some ways it has big holes. So we got to fill them up. And sometimes we can fill them up by just re-envisioning music that people already love, which
Mm,
really helps audiences come to us because they're already sometimes scared. Like, what is the vibraphone? What is percussion? Why should I come? I just
yeah,
want to
yeah.
listen to the violin. It's like, oh no, but if you want to listen to the Beatles and through Brad Mello, it's like all of these layers. And then it's,
Yeah.
Beatles, Brad, Eon. It's like a tower. It's awesome. Like, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
great
It's
idea.
very nice to hear the words of encouragement to to keep going with this.
Yeah, go for it, and I look forward to seeing more from you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Hvala puno.
Yeah, nema na čemu. I'm so glad we met. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. Well,
So nice. Great job. It was so nice to hear some more movements of that piece. I say this every session that someone plays Bach, but it's always so fun to hear all the different discussions that come out of it about the genre, but also about how it relates to so many other things we do. Like it, I love it so much. So thank you so much for your amazing feedback on that, and also hearing about career things as well.
Eon is awesome. It's so easy to have good conversations with great
Yes,
players and great people. Yeah, that was good.
very true. So next up we have Layla. Layla, are you ready to go? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put you on stage. Hello, how's it going?
Hi,
Hey,
how are
Layla.
y'all?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm good.
Where are you at right now? Not right now, like you don't have to tell me the address, but where are you at? You attend school, right?
Yes, I'm at the University of Texas at Arlington. I am on my 5th year, so I have one more semester and then I student teach.
Awesome. Well done. We're all three Texas girls in some way, so
Yes. Awesome. Can you tell us what piece you'll be playing today? Wow.
So the piece that I submitted is actually Toccata by Anna Ignatowicz. I think I butchered that. So it's only a small section of the solo, as like I'm learning it this summer. But I'd love any like insight you have on it. I did see that you played the solo a few years ago. I watched your performance, and so yeah.
yeah, I love it, and I look forward to chatting with you about it. So let's hear it.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing you play.
Awesome. Well done. This is, for those who don't know, this piece is so hard to play. Tell me a little bit about your story with the piece and why you chose to play it and what you're preparing it for. Why is it in the oven?
Well, I had my sights on this piece my sophomore year, and I like talked to my professor about it, and we had that discussion like, oh, it's way harder than it looks. So I was like, maybe I'm not ready for it yet. I'll learn it some other time. And then for like grad auditions and stuff, I started looking at like colleges and like the type of repertoire they require. And I saw that like some places require representative repertoire. Oh, geez. Okay. And so Toccata was on that list. So I said, I might as well learn Toccata for like the places that have those requirements. And then also just like if the college doesn't have it, it's a great piece anyways. I might as well just start getting on it. So
For sure. And so, wait, you're going to be doing student teaching, which means you're an ed major, but you want to go to grad school as well?
I would like to see if I can. So
Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, you're going to challenge yourself, and that's awesome. Well, again, I love this piece, and I think you're starting off really, really well. And if you would be trying out or auditioning in the winter, right?
yes. So I think the video recordings and stuff are like in the fall, right? And then spring is like the auditions.
The audition season. Yeah. Brace yourselves. The winter is coming. Yeah, you'll do great. You'll do great. And this is a great piece. And I think it actually works really nicely because even if you play this first, luckily the piece doesn't start off too crazy. It lets you warm up and lets you like kind of get through in the first minute. You can get through that screaming in your head, and then your nerves calm down, and then you can get into the hard stuff of the piece. So it's actually written really, really well to help you get over if you have any performance anxiety at all. But for today, you played from like the second page for a few pages. So it's really like the middle chunk that we performed.
Yeah.
Tell me, why did you like this piece in the first place?
I just liked how it sounded. I don't know. Like it's not I just really liked how it sounded, I guess. And then I like pieces where I can kind of like have a bit of leeway with like interpretation, and I'd like to work on like my musicality aspect of performing and playing. And so I thought this piece would do me good. In the past, I've played a lot of like really, really like tonal pieces. And so I was recommended to kind of like start straying away from those kind and like expand my words. Expand, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a good piece because it's not atonal by any means, but it is chromatically very exploratory. So it switches its tonal centers, and in that way, it's very interesting. Well, good. Do you know the story of the piece? I mean, the story, it says right under the title, although in Polish, so not accessible to all of us easily.
Yeah, I believe she wrote it in dedication to her father who passed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what the piece is like about, but that's what I read.
Yeah. It says "Pamiątki mojego ojca," which means, I think, in memory of my father. My Polish I'm just learning, so forgive me if I was wrong, but I think that's correct. And so you are right. I think this piece does allow you to maybe without too much capitalizing on chops the whole time, that you actually have time to breathe, and it requires you to breathe because if you don't, it sounds dead, right? So it's really good that way. Now let me when my students pick music, if they pick, if they need help picking, I can do that for them. But when they pick music, I really try to ensure that they do stuff that they really love and that speaks to them deeply, because I think it's only when we include our emotional juices that music becomes really impactful. And I think, and we don't have to go in depth on this, but this music is obviously sad, and I think it does have elements of mourning and elements of loss, and in some ways elements of tragedy, right? She lost a family member. That's never easy. And I wonder, have you had a chance to play such music that is so openly sad before? Or do you gravitate towards such music like what you listen to on your headphones?
Um, Well, I guess like I play. I guess what my general mood is at the time. I know my sophomore year I played character number 2 because I had just like come out of like indoor season. It's like I gotta use all these chops. I learned so much. But then like I picked a piece called Samsara because it wasn't necessarily sad, but it definitely like questioned like the ego and how like you have to kind of just like the cycle of it. I don't, sorry, I won't get too much into that, but sometimes like I've noticed that when I like try and compose or like try and like improvise on instruments, it comes out a bit melancholy. Um, so
Then you're my person, because that's my go-to mood as well. And I think we can explore so much from that. So here's something for you. There is something that Aristotle called the paradox of tragic pleasure. And he said that this is that feeling that people get when they gravitate towards, say, sad music or tragedies in, drama, or sad stories, whatever it is. And I am definitely one of those people. Not, and it doesn't mean it's not some, deriving sick pleasure from it. It's not about watching, observing people suffer or whatever. It is actually, I think, it is a symptom of empathy, and a symptom of like trying to understand the breadth and the depth of human experience, some of which is dark. And so most of us, get to experience some of it firsthand, like on our own skin. Everybody has, not great things happen to them, so they experience things. But in order to understand everything that happens in the world, we consume it through art, right? It's like you live through vicariously through people, sometimes through art like this. And I think this is a fantastic way, if you've noticed that this is what comes out of you naturally when you improvise, not try to improvise. You're improvising, you're not trying. I want you to take out the try, because try tells me that you're trying to put yourself down. Now, you will not put yourself down. You improvise, okay? So please just take that word out of your dictionary. So when you improvise, melancholy comes out. Cool. We can use a lot of melancholy in here. Now, the question then becomes, what is melancholy for you? How does melancholy sound for you? Like, what are its musical traits or character traits? Just give me something. Yeah.
It's bittersweet. It's not an aggressive kind of like emotion or like a grief. It's very soft and solemn. So like I guess like I can't think of a piece right now, but I don't know if you play games. I guess like Kingdom Hearts, Dearly Beloved, I think is
Yes,
what it's called.
absolutely. My students just played that on our concert, because we did a full like video game concert
Oh,
for our chamber music, and one of them arranged Dearly Beloved, and it's very melancholic. It's really wonderful.
yes.
Yeah. So Totally. And you hit it right on the head. Like you said, it's soft. It's not aggressive. And we can take this very literally into music. So in my experience, and I know that you've just started learning, you're playing an excerpt, and that's fine. And all of this is just like a lot of stuff going on. Right now, for my taste, for how you've described melancholy, you play in a very concrete way, in a very bright and present way. And I don't want to say it's hard, but it's not soft. So right now, like for example, all your left hand, even though we start where the left hand becomes a little bit more concrete, but for me, that's that's a murmur. That's like whispers behind the curtain where you're almost like, I don't even know if I speak that language. It feels like I can maybe understand some words, but I don't really. And I think that's where the softness can exist, right? So I think right now, and this could be I frequently find this to be a symptom of people who have chops, is that they don't know how to unchop some things. They're just like, but this says I have to do this rotation. This rotation is hard, therefore I will do a really good rotation. But again, the music is not supposed to be da 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 da. If you were to imagine another instrument play this, let's say that it was a violin, and the person would hold one finger down and then just flutter the other one, right? It would be something mushy. It would be something misty. It wouldn't be da 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 da. We wouldn't expect them to bow it, so we hear the articulation. We want just that. It's like fast blinking, right? That's all we ask for. And so for me, again, just taking from what you've told me that melancholy is to you, you're playing it in this way where you want to be really honest with every note, and you want to make sure every note is heard and every note is placed well and so on. But melancholy is not about it being in like 4D and, being like this high fidelity, high quality picture. It's not about that, right? It's something that's misty. It's something that's gloomy. It's something that has some details pop out, but most of them are kind of left in the dust, right?
Yes.
And so I'd say the way that we play should maybe reflect that a little bit more. And if you want to get like really super technical of how you could do that on the marimba, for example, is when you play the beginning, the part that we didn't listen to, but I would say when you start off, start with your wrist up where the mallets fall, hitting the bars with the tops of their heads, like with their crowns, so that you would get a mushier sound. And so you would play really relaxed. Also, when you have to play like this, you cannot rotate like a machine, you sort of have to just let them drop. And then when you get to the area where you just got, you're going to lower and play at a normal angle, a regular angle. But you're still going to, I want you to think about it as just like, not like daga, 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 daga. You're not trying to tongue every note, yeah?
Mm.
And then there is this question of the melody that happens in the right hand, but then there's a bass hit every now and again. And you are playing that by switching them. Can you tell me why? Because you instead of keeping all of this flutter assigned to your left hand and making your right hand jump up and down, you actually switch them. Can you tell me why you chose to do that?
So I actually did it without switching at first. I managed to squeeze in like a last minute lesson with my professor at the end of the semester, and he had played this piece as well in the past. And so he said that like the way that she wrote it, it was in, I don't know. He recommended to like do the switching, and it is a bit easier because like the Yamaha is so big, and my arm span's not very wide, so it definitely made it cleaner for me to switch.
Okay, I can see that. I personally, I choose to do the other way around because for me, I feel a little bit. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where it's like I have to train this one hand to do this thing, and then the other one has to pick up seamlessly. And they constantly have to switch between being forefront, background. So for me, I'd rather choose my challenge to be the wingspan, and it's always that bottom note is always a pain, but guess what? The whole music is kind of, I mean, this is where it kind of starts to wind up, right? It gets some momentum, and it's like it's okay to suffer a bit as a performer, and it might even reflect on the sound in a proper way, not intention, but in something there emotionally. So for me, again, I find that challenge to be much more consistent. And when I practice hands separately, which I always do, I do that because that's what I studied when I did piano. So I would always suggest that you do that. I have my melody and then a bass that sort of comes in as like a little reset, like a beautiful round bass drum, and that's it. Versus having to remember how many, I play the melody and then I have to pick this up for like 3 rolls and then I have to go back. I feel like my brain would probably turn into oatmeal. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep track of it. So give it a shot the other way around. If you are absolutely sure that, you just can't with your wingspan, that's totally okay. And what you do is harder. So kudos to you when, you're pulling it off. But I think it just makes sense. It's kind of pianistic as well to jump with hands up and down. It's a useful skill, I'd say. So, okay. And then I'm looking at, what is that? That's rehearsal marking for the bum, bim, bum, bim, bum, bim, bum, bim, bum. When those tiny voices happen in top, when you sort of like switch this to your right hand, or at least I do, when it's in treble clef, and then you play that mi fa re mi si, which are, most of them are offbeats, right? How do you feel about them?
I definitely had to sit down and like check the rhythm. I still could be playing it wrong, but I had like, I would learn this piece and I'd notice how like, oh, there's like 2 more 16 notes in here than the measure before, so I like had to go back and relearn it. So I just lined up the 16 notes, like I drew lines and then I figured out the count. But the part playing it feels really awkward. I don't know if I should switch the hands or not. Trying to switch is like the tiny intervals, I feel like makes room for error. So yeah.
I mean, you can absolutely do it both ways. It's totally possible. It's just about, I think, so let me say this. We can, and I think when we're younger, there are things where when we're just like gathering up our technique and figuring out our relationship with the instrument, there is definitely a more sensible way to play. And don't do this, this is stupid right now for you. It's just, it'll take you way longer. But when you become a grown up like you are, you realize that, I mean, all phrasings will offer a challenge, but you pick your sticking because you want the thing to sound a certain way, not necessarily because you want the easy way out. Sometimes those will be the same. Sometimes when you feel the lightest physically, like it just feels in as close as possible to effortless, you will be able to shape it the best. But it's not always the answer. And only because, maybe this will take 2 weeks of practice extra, but it will be totally worth it for the end result. And you'll have a new skill in your back pocket. So what I was going to say about this part is I totally feel you. I did the same. I had to like do fake bar lines the whole time because I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? How many beats? Because for those of you that don't know, this piece does not have time signatures. It's just bars are as long as a page or longer, and they're grouped really nicely. But like the notes are grouped nicely. The stems connect things, but oh my gosh, it's not sight readable. And so what I found when I listened to you in this section is it felt to me like you were counting and you were really trying to like, ba, 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 be, ba. Like you were really trying to be, right on time. And it felt a little bit like whack-a-mole. It's just like, it's here, it's here, it's here. And you whacked all the moles, but it was like out of character. It felt much more concerned with what the rhythm is than what the point of it is,
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, And that is a stage that I had to go through as well. Is like, oh my God, my brain is again melting right now because I'm thinking so hard about the rhythms. But one thing that I'd say is, in order to not just keep deepening that way of playing, and it's just a stage that we have to evolve past. One thing that I always think about is like, if this music was not written for my instrument, let's say that this is a full orchestra, what instrument would be playing this line, for example? And so when you hear that, bum, bim, bum, bim, bum, what kind of instrument does it sound like to you?
Oh, I guess like plucking on a violin.
Okay, nice. So you hear plucked violins. Okay, but do you hear them like snap the strings so it like smacks against the neck of the violin, or do you find it to be something that's light?
Light.
Light. Yeah. I mean, it could have been the other way around as well. I think it could be interesting. For me, I hear piccolo and flute holding these. And so for me, when I think long tones, I tend to play more legato. Instead of when I think something is really short, then I will probably play it like I'm trying to poke it, as opposed to trying to shape it so that it's long notes. And so I'd say orchestrate it in your head. It's a really interesting task. You can take your whole score and just write down what instruments you would hear in your head if this was a full orchestra, because that's the perfect medium, right? You have as many colors as you like, and you can have combinations of instruments, and it's just like it gives you a completely different view of the thing. It's like a much broader way of looking at the music. So I think that could help you. But here I'd say again, you can watch back your recording and see that it just communicates that you were really, really thinking about the rhythm. And we want to make sure that this, when people watch you, they'd be like, they're not even thinking about how hard it is to play this. It's just beautiful, right? So that's that. And then looking at number 5, rehearsal marking 5, that's Jade. When we go to how do you hear that? How many layers do you have there? What do you hear?
So, it was weird. When I played it, it was like I could hear like my mallet 4, and then I was playing like the but so I only heard like 2 parts. But when I listened to the recording, I heard 3. The repeated A natural had like its own rhythm in the part. So 3.
Yeah, right. So I will say whether you choose to divide it in 2 or 3, or you have more, maybe that bass note is something completely separate again to you. But you'll notice that what she does is she takes this thing that she had in the beginning, which is that there is some activity, like some rotation happening in the middle, and then there is stuff going on top, and then there's an occasional like slap in the face with that bass, right? It's that same thing, is just closer. And what I would say here, again, this is just like a trick that you, not a trick, but something that I found sounds beautiful, and you can try it, and if you hate it, throw it in the trash, don't worry about it. But you might want to play your inner notes, again, a little bit with the mallets tipped, so that you get a darker sound, a less concrete sound. And then you might want to make sure that what we hear as something that pops up like stars, that come through, or like spaceships, I don't know, something that you can see a little bit more in HD, are these notes, right? And that bass note, that A. And again, if you just play I'm sorry, I don't have an instrument with me. I'm back home in Serbia, and I don't own a marimba here. But what I do is like I play it like that, and then I just have a little bit more momentum. So when I drop the A and the G, all those notes on top, they land with more weight, and then they come up as a little bit more plump and more present. And so people can hear the melody happening, and then this thing is just inner workings. It's not the story. itself. So that is a thing that I'd recommend. At 6, I really liked how you had that little hold up when the harmony changes. I think that works really well, and it's also a great thing for how hard this is to like get out of your own way while you're playing those intervals. I thought that was done really well. What I would do at 6 is I would probably try to gain a little bit more momentum. So if you can, maybe you want to start 6 slower, but speed it up a little bit so that when you get to that point where you slow down, so dee da 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 dee ba 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 beep ba 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 beep ba ba ba. It just makes more sense if there's some runway, and it jumps off and it lands, versus when it's like da 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 ba 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 ba.
Okay.
It's like physics, right? When you throw something with some momentum, it like makes sense for you to see how it slows down, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then this next section is just, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
A piece of advice, something that helped me a lot, and I know it doesn't, I've said this a million times in every masterclass, but it really helps. Practice dead strokes. And I know they don't make sense. You're not supposed to play dead strokes ever, in reality then. But in order to make sure that you feel like every note is placed, do this at half tempo at dead strokes, and make sure that you know exactly, where you're playing at the edge of a bar, where you're playing in the center of the bar, which hand moves first, so you can observe all of those. And then these transitions between these blocks of music will be much easier. So.
Okay. And then for this section, because the playing zones are, I don't know, they don't feel great. Do you like, I don't know if this makes sense. Do you try and keep, like, for example, the one at 5, that E flat, do you just like pivot on the edge, or do you like do like the edge, and then when it's on the E flat and B flat, do you play center?
Yes, I do. And
Okay.
it's hard because this sounds a little bit weaker because it doesn't have a full E flat and then it's center E flat. But for that one, I literally have no other option. So it just is what it is. But at this point, it's like, it's so picking up speed and it's so becoming a tornado that it's not about making it sound like dee da da dee da dee da ba bee da. I think it has that in its DNA. So it's really just about pushing it kind of equally. So da 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 dee da dee da da dee da. It's kind of a little bit more like a Doppler effect sounds to me. So yes, some of these there aren't great solutions for, or maybe there are. I just haven't found them. So sometimes you play the edge and you do your best. You find a good mallet, it helps. A good instrument, it helps, but it's never going to be like right. So there's Megan.
Hello, I think we're out of time. But great job, Layla. That was so amazing. And for working on it for such a short amount of time, you did a really great job. It was so nice to hear you play.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Send me a recording when you have it done. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, we've got one more performance up. Are you ready to go?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Ksenija. It's very nice to meet you.
It's awesome to meet you.
Hi, my name is Dane. I am from Zagreb, Croatia. My main teacher is Igor Lešnik, and I sometimes get to work with Ivana Bilic. And today I prepared a recording of Etude in E minor by Pius Cheng, which I presume you know pretty well, so I don't need to say anything more.
That's awesome. It's really good to meet you, Dane, and Book. And I love your teachers. And yeah, let's listen to the Pius Cheng.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bravo. I love the demonstratively leaving the marimba part.
Thank you.
Yeah, done.
I'm done. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Amazing. Please tell me your story with this piece and when you started learning. Why? Do you have a relationship with it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you everything?
So I'm currently finishing the second year of my studies, and I'm 19. So I started the academy earlier. And I'm a pretty ambitious person. And last year, when I enrolled into the academy, as it is the standard procedure to every year learn one cello suite for the yearly repertoire for the marimba. Of course, for me, that wasn't enough. So last year I was thinking like, okay, I need I need a new marimba piece, something to play along the cello suite. And I was thinking on what should I choose? And I really liked this piece from earlier when I saw it. And I was like, okay, it lasts 3 minutes. How hard can it be, right? And yeah, so I chose it. And then all the problems began. And it was a very long process, as it's been almost, I think, a year I have been playing it. Yeah, pretty much. So it took me on a really wild ride, but that's why I really like it. Because it became from a piece that I was like, oh yeah, 2 months stops, done. Yeah, no problem, easy. Yeah, which was not the case, to say the least. But it was really a journey with this piece, and I really like it. There wasn't a specific thing I chose it for. I did end up playing it on many competitions and such, but like it's really I will always have a special place for it because of the journey it took me on. Like it's wild.
That's great, and it's really great that you that you leapt for something that seemed like it was easier than it was, but then you stuck with it. And
Yeah.
you were like, all right, you're not going to cost me 2 months. You're going to cost me a year of my life. And that's okay. And that you love the
Yeah.
journey. And now you're able to like smile about it. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I wanted to say, first of all, it's a really beautiful video and a beautiful recording, and
Thank
the
you.
gallery that you play in, like, I love all of it. And you've put in a lot of effort, which shows, and that's really great, especially considering your age, the fact that you're putting together a production that's good. It's
Thank
really,
you.
yeah. Um, you know, you can hear the composer play this. You can hear Casey play this, his arch nemesis and best friend.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many people who have played this piece. So I'm wondering, what if you could, draw a map of all the performances that you know of, where would you be on that map, and how would your performance be different than what you've heard before?
Well, in which way do you think? In which way do you want me to put it on the map? Like, what are the parameters of?
The parameters are your experience of music, so they could be anything. You just have to walk me through it a little bit. You can describe, like, oh, I think
This is a very hard question.
it is. I'm only here for hard questions.
Well, I must say, I think I haven't heard the Casey Cangelosi version. I did really try before I was going to record it. I tried to look at the most versions that I could, and because of the video, but also because of the audio and how people played it. And I must say that I haven't ran into recordings that are, in my opinion, presentable. Not a video. I'm talking about playing here. And I presume I know where you're going with this question, but what I want to say. This is a really tough question, but I would rank it below such people as Pius, because my playing is not at that level, and I don't want it to be at that level. So I think I have a long way, not only with this piece, but with my playing, to be at that playing level. But I think it's above most recordings I've heard, and versions I've heard.
But yes, and I wasn't, just to clarify, I did not ask for specifically like a ranking at all.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
It's a map, and the map doesn't, if you're on top, doesn't mean that you're better than the people on the bottom. It's just like, okay, if Pius, we can put Pius in the middle, for example,
Okay.
because he is the creator and the performer. So there's that.
Okay.
And then how would you say, I don't know, on an emotional spectrum, on the speed spectrum, on the excitement spectrum, on like all of these ways, if you could draw a map of the performances and just put a dot for each performer that you know, where would you be? Would you be like off completely alone in the corner where no one's explored like the piece in this one way, or would you be in a cluster of people that play the music in this one way? Like, that's what I mean. Not
Well, I would definitely be, and this was the thing I was presuming you were going at. I would definitely be mixed with people who played it. It's yeah. Now that you brought it up, I understand. I didn't really leave maybe my mark on this piece.
and it's not that you didn't. It's like you can't take yourself out of it. You are the person playing it, so
Yeah.
it can't be without Dana. But I think the thing is that when we make recordings, and you'll see this because you're really young. I had no recordings at your age. Okay, so I just want to clarify that I was not, I think, at that level that I could organize a gallery and go and play something this hard. Like, not, you're doing great. But when we commit something to eternity on the internet, or just spend time organizing these things, and when we put together a recording, I think it's so important that it's a personal story and that it has a personal mark, and that we understand that maybe there are 2 recordings out there, maybe there are none, maybe there are hundreds. just to see what it is that we bring that's new to the table. And sometimes just getting really well acquainted with the catalog of music. You don't need to do this at the beginning of your playing, I don't think. I think it's in many ways really useful to not hear any versions before you come up with your own, because you don't want to get influenced by them. But then when you are, close to finishing up, like you're in the production process of pre-production, like, okay, I'm going to record here and it's going to be on this day and this person's going to help me move my marimba, blah, blah, blah. That you sit down and you listen to everybody and you write down the kind of impression that they leave on you. Again, you could write down things that are also like, this person plays it at tempo 160, this person plays it at 120, blah, blah, blah. You can do things that are more concrete, but it's more like, what emotion do you get? What is the overall vibe? And then are you doing something that is significantly different, or can you amp up or something on something? Like, can you intensify some emotion in your playing? How are we going to know it's exactly you? And again, you did a wonderful job, but I will say that it felt to me like you were trying to be true to the music more than you are true to yourself. And this is not bad. It's
but it's one way.
It's one way. So many people need to be told constantly, like, stop putting yourself first. You got to take care of the music for a moment.
Yeah.
But once you take care of the music, once you've put music first and you've handled it, then you got to put yourself first. It's something I was talking to Ian about earlier. It's like that you really have to make sure that it has your own stamp. And so we got to know that you hear it differently than anyone else. And so I'll tell you some of my impressions of listening to you play. Is I think you play, first of all, you play really well.
Thank you.
And again, it's kind of, my head is reeling that you're 19. It's kind of crazy. But you understand all the categories, like, of playing romantic or neo-romantic music. You understand what are you allowed to flex. You understand, you love it. I would say you really like chromatic music. You like fast music. You like chops. Like, I think this is you. I think that's also why maybe just playing Bach was not enough, because you needed something that's like fire. Yeah. However, your fluctuations in the neo-romantic style that this is were kind of within a framework.
Okay.
And once I've heard the first minute of it, I could expect up to where you will go and where you're going to come back to. It's like the pendulum swings exactly this way, and it kind of became expected. But the point of like us flexing these things is to explore the unexpected, right? To like break expectations, to take people to maybe push it way more than they'd expect, and then to like drag it way more than they'd expect. So it will be fresh, right?
Yeah.
And for your playing, your path was really great. All the places where you flexed, went up and down, were great. But they just, to me, like, even upon my first hearing, I could sing along to your playing, because I felt like I knew what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And this is not, again, it's not bad. You're doing it all in the right places, but I feel like you can like break those walls and
I can do it differently at different places.
Failing expectations is really what makes, like, setting expectations in music is really important, and it has to be done for a certain percentage of time, so that people need familiarity. People need to hold on to something to ride a wave that they understand. But then what makes it really interesting is the odd stuff. And if we can find one or two spots that are odd, at least, that would really make people be like, oh my God, wait, I've never heard a person do this here. That is what makes it like special and is a mark of a personal stamp. So I'd say, for example, when I listened to Pius do this, I went back and listened back in preparation for this just so I could see what he did. Like, he would, even though at the bottom of the first page, he wouldn't play those intervals in his right hand and the moving line in his left hand, or in the bass clef at the same time. He would break them, because that's something that people do all the time. Although you can land them at the same time, but that's what makes it a little imperfect, and it's like, it's like a beautiful scar, you know, it's
Yeah.
like awesome.
Yeah. Well, I chose some places where I did play it not together, and then I chose some places I did play it together. So, but I know exactly the spot. It was the spot you're talking about is like the most noticeable, and it's like the most direct. So I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, and that's just a sample. Like it's not
Yeah.
about misaligning notes necessarily. It could be about so many things. You could think about time, you could think about color of what you're playing, you could think about how much space you're taking. Like there's so many things. This is just one thing where it's like, okay, are things like aligned perfectly in a pillar, or are they kind of offset? And it's about finding what works for you. So, and that's the thing that I think would be a really interesting exploration mode for you now, because you already have this in your hands. Now you can just
Yeah.
all right, how do we go wild, with this and come up with something no one's come up with? So that was one thing. And then the other thing that I would say was, and this might have been the recording also, there's always like the fidelity thing is beautiful, but I did not notice, except for in the beginning, there weren't many moments of like whispering. Everything was done at a pretty solid, clear, I want to project to the last person in the audience type of thing. And when you're recording, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I think you can really make it like really, really whispery. And there's a part that's like singing sotto voce. And I think that, for example, could have been like almost like making me want to turn up my volume, which you didn't do, which is like a good thing for a person walking down the street with their headphones, but you know what I mean. So, yeah. My question for you is what is your main challenge with this music?
Well, up till now, it was mostly technical. So the last year it was about that, improving technically. And now, after I recorded it, because I recorded it, I think a month ago now, and I haven't really played it since then. Now my plan is just to leave it a little bit sitting. And also I was working on this with Eriko Daimo, and one more how do I say, one more thing that is left out because of the recording is the kind of building up until the end, and that's something I have also noticed. I have a problem with when I'm recording. It's difficult for me to get in the same mode like it's a concert. It's a very different atmosphere and environment. So that's something I'm trying to work on, even while I'm not practicing, but recording myself like while practicing, So yeah, that's the first thing that's missing, but that's kind of something I just need to think of and not really think of at the same time. It's difficult to describe. But the other thing is I just want to think about all these, of course, all of these things you said, and implement them, especially the quiet parts, and the more maybe freely as it goes on. That's something I would like to try, but for now I would leave it sitting until like July, and then from the middle of July to the middle of August I have I organized myself like a concert tour along the Dalmatian coast. Yeah, so
Amazing.
yeah, so while that's going on, I just want to play it and just see where it goes, and let it go and see where it ends up, and then just leave it be as I progress, and then come back to it every once in a while, and maybe in 10 years after I have a totally different variation, I will record it again as a Glenn Gould variation of Etude Minor Pius Chang.
Yeah, I think that's great. So one thing that you mentioned, which definitely works in these moments, is like the no practice method. It's like leave it alone, because we end up being just creatures of habit. So leave it alone. And then you're taking it on tour, which is amazing. That's playing once is not enough. So music really grows and you figure it out because you have a different audience, a different venue every time. It will make you play differently. And one more thing that I would say could be something that inspires you to do it differently is in your head, try to dedicate it to a different person every time you play. Like you're trying to, talk to a person. And this could be a person you've never met. So you could want to dedicate it to Rachmaninoff. And then you could dedicate it to a family member and dedicate it to, a loved one, an enemy, like whatever you want. But like try to, it's like you're saying the same text, but to a different person, and it will get colored emotionally differently every time. So just give that a thought before you start playing it all. It might help nudge you in a certain direction.
Yeah. Cool way of thinking. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So this is, it's really, really, really very, very good. You did a fantastic job. So I don't have too much to say besides I wish you to just let yourself come out.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, that's the one thing I think was also I was so focused on, just because this is the first serious recording I tried to do and did. That I was just so, and the way of the recording, the sound was because this is my room and it's like a studio, so, and I got my Yamaha marimba like also 2 months ago, so it was like, and I have a problem that my house is on the street where the trams go by, so the only time I could record is on the Sunday after 2 a.m. till 4 a.m.
Oh God.
So it was like,
I
had certain ways of, but I think at 2 a.m. I was just so focused to play it right. Like, maybe that could be different next time. But yes.
No, that's great. Good job. But that's reality. So, and you're handling it like a champ already. So well done.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What a fun story for such a great recording. I love the area that you did it, and your interpretation is so nice. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
We are going to go ahead and end the session here, if that's okay with you guys. Thank you for watching, everyone on YouTube, and in the future watching this back. We will be back